Let us start with our prayer before study. Christ, my Lord, the giver of light and wisdom, who opened the eyes of the blind man and transformed the fishermen into wise heralds and teachers of the gospel through the coming of the Holy Spirit, shine also in my mind the light of the grace of the Holy Spirit. Grant me discernment, understanding, and wisdom in learning. Enable me to complete my assignments and to abound in every good work, for to you I give honor and glory. Amen. Most blessed Lord, send the grace of your Holy Spirit on me to strengthen me, that I may learn well the subject I am about to study, and by it become a better person, for your glory, the comfort of my family, and the benefit of your church and our nation. Amen. Very good, very good. Let us turn to yet another outline on page 27. I want to continue our moving through Greek history, just sort of as an overview, a setting for the literature that we're reading. But I brought a picture. This is, oh dear, the camera. This is the Lion's Gate at Mycenae. This is what Heinrich Schliemann, after he found Troy, found this is the city of Agamemnon. And those lions, they're headless. This happens. They're 9.5 feet tall. So just let me pass it around. Just to give you the idea, this is enormous. So look at 9.5 foot tall lion sculptures. Then look at those stone blocks. Look at the size of those stone blocks in comparison. And so you can see why they called them Cyclopean, because they think the Cyclops made them. I don't know that they actually thought the Cyclops made them, but the idea being they're so enormous, how could they lift them? Also, look how nicely they fit together. Isn't that amazing? That's crazy. You can just set it there, throw it on the table. Yes. So what happened? Let's just recap. We've talked about these people living on Crete, the Minoans, and they disappeared. Don't know why. Volcano, not volcano. Don't know. Then the Mycenaeans take over. We've been reading about the Mycenaeans all year so far for 8 weeks, because this is Agamemnon and Odysseus and Menelaus. These are the Mycenaean kings. But remember what Homer says, sprinkled throughout the Iliad. And he picked up a rock such as 5 men now couldn't pick up. Because those were the heroes. Those guys were awesome. Some of them were demigods. Some of them had a god for a parent. And Homer's saying, yeah, we don't have those anymore. Homer's writing in the next stage, or maybe the next one. The Mycenaeans, if there was a Menelaus and Agamemnon and all of those other guys, their cities got wiped out, it appears, by invaders. And the invaders didn't do much constructive. And in fact, there is what they call the Dark Ages in Greece. For a couple hundred years, there's no writing. Just nothing notable. And when civilization starts to flourish again, they're writing in Greek. It's kind of archaic Greek, but it's recognizable as Greek to us. This is the Archaic Age, and this is the outline that I put in your reading guide. And I just want to briefly go over this, because there's 2 things that happen in the Archaic Age that are really, really important for the next book that we're going to be reading. It's a history book. It's the very first history book that we know of ever written, which I think is awesome. First of all, the polis. Some of you from your younger days might remember this. We have cities that end in polis. Minneapolis, Annapolis, Metropolis. I think there's a Mediopolis, sort of in central or southern Illinois. I can't come up with any other polises, but it means city. Got one? Indianapolis, thank you. It's the polis of Indiana. It's the Indianapolis, right? Polis means city, but it doesn't really mean city. We don't have a translation for it. We call it city-state because when these cities start rising, Athens and Sparta and Thebes and Corinth, they're their own countries. There's not, this is Greece, and you're a city, and you're a city, and you're a city, and you're a city. Mm-mm-mm. If you travel from Athens to Sparta, it's like you've gone to another country. And there's different laws, there's different government, there's maybe different money, everything's different. And so this idea of a city-state, the city itself and the area around it, because there's farmers living outside the walls, but all of those people together make up a polis. And this idea of the polis was very, very important. If you're from Athens, you're not Greek, you're Athenian. If you're from Thebes, you're not Greek, you're Theban. It's sort of like if each state in the U.S., if the states were more important than being American. And once upon a time, they kind of were. The states were very, very important, and now they're not so very important. Since the Civil War, the states haven't been as important. But once upon a time, it was very important that I'm from New York, or I'm from Massachusetts, but now we move around, we don't really care as much. But they really, really did. We see the great polices, not police, but polis is the plural in Greek. Sparta and Athens. Sparta. Anybody remember what Sparta known for? What do they do in Sparta a lot? Yes, black broth. They eat black broth. Yes, they eat gross food, and they exercise all the time. They are basically a military camp. Athens, on the other hand, let's have philosophers and make beautiful statues, which doesn't mean they're wimps at fighters. As a matter of fact, the very next very, very important event we're going to meet up with in Greek history is largely because the Athenians were awesome fighters. But they just didn't see that they needed to have a military camp in their city. So we will be spending a lot of time with Athens and Sparta. But they didn't really like to work together. They didn't play well with others. They did not play well with other polis at all. To the point where they're just always fighting. And the story goes that finally somebody went to the oracle at Delphi and said, how can we stop fighting? You would think that you could figure that out on your own. And the answer was, you need to start something that everyone can cooperate in. An athletic contest for everybody. It was the Olympic Games. This was an attempt to get everybody to just stop it for a little while. So they had a truce for 3 months because people had to travel to Olympia and home. And it's no fun to travel to the Olympic Games if you're going to get beaten up and robbed as you go past enemy cities. So truce. Only Greeks can participate because it's camaraderie, right? But then when it was over, they just went back to fighting. It's unfortunate. So this is the first thing to keep in mind. We see it a little bit in the Iliad and the Odyssey, right? Odysseus is king of Ithaca. He's not king of the Greeks. And even though Agamemnon is the high king, he's king in Mycenae. It's sort of a place of honor he has. He's more important from honor, not the fact that he can actually tell all of Greece what to do. That's going to change. And that's not going to change. It's going to change in the fact that we don't have kings. We have maybe 2 kings here. Maybe we have a democracy there. Maybe we have some other form of government here. But each place is going to stay individual. Okay, that's thing number 1. Thing number 2, I didn't bring my map out. You know what? Because I'm in my own home, it doesn't matter if I forget things, does it? The second thing is the Mediterranean here is the Greek city-states started sending out colonies massively in the Archaic Age. This is going to become important because when a city sent out a colony, you expected the colony to obey you and honor you and treat you like their mother. Much like England sent out colonies to America, and they expected a certain level of loyalty and honor, which we would have had if they hadn't taxed us against the law. It was the same deal. So if Corinth sends out a colony, they expect the colony to treat them with respect. This also comes in important because lack of respect from a colony is going to lead to a major war. So where did they send colonies to? First of all, they sent colonies to, look on my list, so many colonies in southern Italy that they called it Magna Graecia, Great Greece. This was Great Greece. This is how the Romans ended up knowing about Greek gods. This is why the gods seem very much the same for the Romans, just with some different names. Because this was full of Greeks. Sicily, coast of North Africa, all the way, this is off the map, southern France. Greek colonies in southern France. And most especially over here, the coast of Asia Minor, it's Turkey today. By the way, for reference, this is a New Testament map. You see these cities where the Apostle Paul was traveling. This is that area. And around the Black Sea. And here, up here, this side. It was full of Greeks. And when they set up a colony, they brought their gods, culture, the Greek language, Greek ideas, Greek culture started spreading all over this end of the Mediterranean. So Rome ends up being the heir of Greece because they're just the near neighbors of Greeks. The fact that Greeks settled in southern Italy and Sicily is also going to come in very important in future wars that we're going to talk about. So this 800 to 500 BC, I put as the dates. This takes us up to the time period. We're getting close to things that we know absolutely the date of. We know the date, we know it happened, we know when it happened. This is all, we know these things happen, but it's a little murky, if that makes sense. And in fact, we have one more outline that after our break, by the way, we won't be meeting next week. This is in the email. We're taking a fall break next week. When we come back, we'll take a look at some of these people that we're pretty sure existed, and they're pretty important, but we have no real idea exactly when they existed. All right, there's one other thing I wanted to look at before we start looking at the Odyssey, and it is on pages 27 or 28 and 29. It is another poet. We've seen lots of Homer and his epics. We've seen Archilochus and his snarky, yeah, I'm just going to leave my shield in a bush and someone else can have it. I can buy a new shield, but I can't buy a new body, which didn't seem very heroic of him. We saw Sappho, who's, oh, I'm in love. That's her main topic. And now Pindar. Pindar was from Thebes. We know he was born about 518. The last work we know of is in 446. So this is historical era. Pindar's specialty was odes in honor of victors in athletic contests. And there was a big demand for this because there were a lot of athletic contests. There's the Olympic Games. You'll see on page 28 it says Olympian 11. It means it's the 11th ode we have for an Olympic victor. But on 29 it says Nemean 6. This was for the Nemean Games. There's Isthmian Games. They had lots and lots of these athletic contests. And when you won, Pindar sang your praises, if you were fortunate. But he didn't just sing your praises. He sang the praises of your family and your polis and all of your ancestors. And you know, every time I talk about this, I see Mulan, you know, like dishonor on your cow, dishonor on your whatever. But this is the opposite of that, you know. Honor to you, honor on your family, honor on your polis, everything. So I wanted to just look at some of this Nemean 6. I'm not going to read all of these to you. Quite frankly, they're very difficult to follow because he talks about stuff about their family. I don't know their family. I don't know this guy. I'm not totally sure where he's from unless Pindar tells me. But everybody knew back then. And now it's just full of references that I don't know about. But I wanted to take a look at a couple of things so you'll get a feel for this. And so on page 29 in this Nemean 6, would everybody look, you see there's 4 paragraphs. Look at the second one. And then about halfway through there's the word lo. There's a line that starts with the word lo. And it says, now Aegina. Aegina is an island. Is this map? Oh, yeah. It's not even on here. It's really, if you just sail a little way, it's kind of right here. It's very close to Attica. And they were often fighting with Athens for various reasons. But this victor is from there. So we're going to sing the praises of this island. Lo, now Aegina's athlete son, from where in Nemea holden are those heart-gladdening contests, cometh home, who, following the course whose chart was by the destiny of Zeus unfolden, hath proved no baffled glory hunter in the wrestling ring. Okay, so now we know this guy won a wrestling. That was his claim to fame. He won the wrestling contest, and he was no baffled glory hunter. He was hunting for glory, and he wasn't baffled. He wasn't kept from getting the glory because he won. His feet along the footprints of Praxidamus have raced, even those by one of his own blood, his father's father traced. Praxidamus is his grandpa, his father's father. He's walked in the footsteps of his grandpa. What does grandpa do? It says, who in Olympia, victor, first brought home the olive spray for Iacchus's princely lines renown. Iacchus, he's the mythical first king of Aegina. In other words, Grandpa was the first guy from the island to bring home the victory laurel. And now this guy has followed in Grandpa's footsteps. What else did Grandpa do? 5 times at Isthmus won the crown, at Nemea thrice, and wiped Scolydes' deedless stain away, the sons of Agassimachus the eldest. Who's Scolydes and what's his stain? I have no idea. But apparently there was a stain on this family, and Grandpa wiped it out by being awesome. He won here, and he won here, and he was the first guy from the island. So do you see he's celebrating not just this young man, but the whole island and his whole ancestry. So look at the last 2 lines on that page. Come, O my muse, unto this victor waft thy gale of glory, the breath of song. For when from earth have passed her mighty men, then rescued from oblivion, are their noble deeds by lay and legend. How, when these guys die and they're forgotten, what will keep their memory alive? Lay and legends. What's a lay? A song. A bard's song. Like what he's writing. This will keep his glory alive. All right, that's all I'm going to read from that. You can look at more of it if you want. There are tons of Pindaric odes. You can Google Pindaric ode and it just brings up pages and pages, but they're difficult. You kind of understand about 25% of it, maybe 30. Okay, this guy won. All right, he's from here. Yeah, this is what he did, and then it's just kind of lost to us without footnotes. All right. Let us dig into the Odyssey. I have to find the right page. Here we go. Now we're getting down to it. He's home. He's home. And they better look out. Alcinous, the king of the Phaeacians, says in Book 13 that he's going to load up a ship and take Odysseus home. And Odysseus thanks him, and he says, "May I find an unswerving wife when I reach home, and loved ones hail unharmed." Why might he say that? Why might he be concerned about what could be going on at home?
Because what happened to Agamemnon?
Agamemnon came home and got murdered because his wife had taken up with his cousin. It was bad news. And so he was warned. Remember, he was warned in the underworld. Just like at the beginning of the poem, Telemachus travels around and everybody says, "Oh, did you hear about Orestes? He manned up and he went and took care of business and defended his dad." Just so Odysseus heard from Agamemnon in the underworld, "Oh, you know, my wife murdered me when I came home. You better watch out when you come home." By the way, so the Phaeacians take him home. What is Odysseus doing when he gets dropped off at Ithaca? Do you remember? He's asleep again. We mentioned this last week, didn't we? Did I remember to talk about this with you guys? He slept while his guys opened the bag of winds. He slept while his guys ate the cattle of the sun, which then mooed and moved around on the spits. That's just disgusting. And then he slept when he came home. The place he's been trying to get to for 20 years, and 10 years. He was 10 years at the war, 10 years trying to get home. Again, did anybody have an epiphany about him sleeping? At key moments, Odysseus seems to sleep. I will throw this in. I don't know what Homer meant by it. I honestly don't. That's why I keep asking you guys. Why does he sleep? But the church fathers saw a lot in the Odyssey that is notable and admirable. One thing, for example, the sirens. They said the sirens were like sin, and you have to tie yourself to the mast if necessary, and don't let the sin call you off the course. But sleeping, the church fathers were talked a lot about watchfulness. And Jesus said, if you'd known what hour the thief was going to break in, you wouldn't have gone to bed and let the thief break in. He said, so watch. Watch, because you don't know at what hour the master will return. And so a lot of the church fathers said, this whole sleeping business. Bad things happened to Odysseus before when he was asleep. Is there something bad that could have happened to him just being dumped off on the shore of Ithaca? And why would somebody kill him? Because he has a ton of stuff. He doesn't look like himself anymore. He's been gone 20 years. That changes a person's appearance, and he's been through a lot. Not to mention, are there people in Ithaca that might like to see him dead? Mm-hmm. And who would those be? All the suitors. This is going to ruin their plans if he comes home. This was potentially a very bad situation, and he slept again. I don't know what to think about that. How were the Phaeacians punished for taking Odysseus home? This was the first question I asked you.
They got shipwrecked. Or they got shipwrecked.
Shipwrecked? Was it indeed a shipwreck, or was there anything odd about it? It kind of depends on how you read the words. Let's take a look at Zeus and Poseidon's little talk about them. Poseidon is ticked off. Those Phaeacians, they just take everybody home. They never have any problems or any wrecks. I'm just sick and tired of it, for whatever reason. And Zeus says, you do know you're a god, right? He says, if any man so lost in his strength and prowess pays you no respect, just pay him back. The power is always yours. Do what you like, whatever warms your heart. Poseidon responds, oh, I thought you would be mad at me if I did something. Zeus says, I don't care. So Poseidon says, I'll crush that fine Phaeacian cutter out on the misty sea, now on her homeward run, and then I'll pile a huge mountain round about their port. Wait, dear brother. Zeus, who collects the clouds, had second thoughts. Here's what seems best to me. As the people all lean down from the city heights to watch her speeding home, strike her into a rock that looks like a racing vessel just offshore. Amaze all men with a marvel for the ages. Then pile your huge mountain round about their port. Now, it might sound, strike her into a rock, but how would that be a marvel for the ages? Don't ships hit rocks? Strike her into a rock that looks like a racing vessel. And then when he does it, it says, the earthquake god with one flat stroke of his hand struck her to stone, rooted her to the ocean floor. What did Poseidon do to that ship? He turned it into stone that still looks like a ship. And it's stuck there. And then he piles the mountain around their port. I don't know why I think this is funny. They were all wondering, and it says, Alcinous rose and made things all too clear. Oh no! My father's prophecy years ago. It all comes home to me with a vengeance now. He'd say Poseidon was vexed with us because we escorted all mankind and never came to grief. He said that one day, as a well-built ship of ours sailed home on the misty sea from such a convoy, the god would crush it, yes, and pile a huge mountain round about our port. He just forgot? Oh yeah, I remember now. That whole thing where a ship is going to be crushed or turned into stone with a huge mountain. This is all we hear. Do the Phaeacians now never go anywhere? Are there no other ports? It's very unclear. Because they're out of the story now. This happens to them and they're done. All right. Athena finds Odysseus just waking from sleep, but he doesn't know where he is. And it says, the goddess Pallas Athena showered mist over all, so under cover she might change his appearance, head to foot, as she told him every peril he'd meet at home, keep him from being known by wife, townsmen, friends, till the suitors paid the price for all their outrage. I guess I just blew that up. Who does he meet first? Athena. And does he just say, oh, Athena, let me tell you the truth of everything? Does anybody remember what happens between them? Yes, Athena doesn't look like Athena. And does Odysseus tell the little shepherd boy the truth? Oh, no. He makes up an enormous story about where he's been and what he's been doing and who he is. It says, he replied with winging words to Pallas, not with a word of truth. Now, How does Athena respond to his magnificent lie? Oh, Odysseus, that's terrible. You shouldn't lie. Lying is wrong. Is that what Athena says? Does anybody remember?
I think she says something about like he's always making up stories.
Yeah. I love what she says. She says first of all, she smiles. Any man, any god who met you would have to be some champion lying cheat to get past you for all round craft and guile. You terrible man, foxy, ingenious, never tired of twists and tricks. So not even here on native soil would you give up those wily tales that warm the cockles of your heart. Come, enough of this. We're both old hands at the arts of intrigue. I can give you as much as you can dish out. I'm pretty smart too, Odysseus. She says, I am here once more to weave a scheme with you. Penelope's been weaving. What was she weaving? A burial shroud for her father-in-law. But she didn't really care about that because she undid it every night. It was just a trick.
She must be getting really good at it.
Yes, until they caught. It said she did it for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then apparently they just thought she was very, very slow. Or they're very, very slow. Or a combination. So why does he need to come back in disguise?
So the suitors don't
Okay, the obvious is because he's very much outnumbered. Is there any other reason you can think of why coming back in disguise? Let me ask this first. What do you think? Well, you've read far enough to know. What is Odysseus going to want to do?
team up with his son and kill him.
Yeah, get rid of the suitors. Take revenge. On whom should one take revenge? Just in general, not just Odysseus, but in general. Yeah, okay, you shouldn't take revenge on anyone, but... All right, I want to make that very clear. You shouldn't take revenge on anyone. Vengeance is mine, so I will repay, saith the Lord. Okay, but if you were Odysseus, let's just make it Odysseus. Who are the people you should revenge yourself on?
Suitors.
Okay, because of why?
People who, because they were trying to take his wife.
Okay, is there anyone else that you might want to revenge yourself on?
Agamemnon. I guess it's not because it's someone.
Because he took him away?
Yeah.
Okay. How about, do the suitors have any allies? Did you find out in the reading for this time? Are the suitors just on their own, or is there anybody who approves of what they're doing?
The goat herd.
The goat herd, Melanthius, we'll look at him in a minute. He's rude. He kicks Odysseus. He's really rude. And he's hanging with the suitors and having meals with them. We also find out that there's some serving girls in the house who spend nights with suitors. I think this is fine. So is there anyone else Odysseus might want to revenge himself on? Anybody who was aiding and abetting his enemies. Does that make sense? But how are you going to find out who those people are? You got to check them out. You got to ask questions. You got to poke around. Because people aren't going to tell Odysseus anything, but they'll tell some old beggar stuff. They don't care what he finds out, because he's nobody. So, suddenly it's a detective story, right? He's coming undercover. He's an undercover detective, and he's going to find out what's going on. All right. He heads on Athena's advice, after being beggared, she says, I will shrivel the supple skin on your lithe limbs, strip the russet curls from your head, and deck you out in rags you'd hate to see some other mortal wear. I'll dim the fire in your eyes, so shining once, until you seem appalling to those suitors, even your wife and the son you left behind. But first, you make your way to the swineherd first, in charge of your pigs. Go to Eumaeus, the swineherd. How does Eumaeus feel about Odysseus? He loves him. Loves him. He sees, first of all, remember, he sees a stranger. The dogs are barking, and he calls the dogs off, and he says, "Oh, lucky for you I was here, because those dogs can be pretty mean. Come on in, stranger." He says, "Boy, I'd be ashamed if something happened to a stranger. That'd be shameful if my dogs bit a stranger." He says, "It's not like I don't have problems enough. Here I sit, my heart aching, broken for him. My master, my great king, fattening up his own hogs for other men to eat, while he, starving for food, I wager, wanders the earth, a beggar, adrift in strangers' cities, foreign-speaking lands, if he's still alive, that is, and still sees the rising sun. Come, follow me into my place, old man, so you, at least, can eat your fill of bread and wine. Then you can tell me where you're from and all the pains you've weathered." Eumaeus is a loyal servant. What else is he? What does he know how to do?
He's good hospitality.
He's quite the host. He gets it. Come on in, have some food, sit down by the fire, relax, and then whatever you want to tell me about your backstory, great. My master, meanwhile, is probably a beggar adrift, and here the beggar standing in front of him is his master. He goes on and he says, "It's wrong, my friend, to send any stranger packing. Even one who arrives in worse shape than you." I think that's a compliment. "Every stranger and beggar comes from Zeus, and whatever scrap they get from the likes of us, they'll find it welcome. That's the best we can do." So again, Odysseus has a lie. Long story that he unwinds. Eumaeus goes on and he says, "He's dead and gone, leaving a broken heart for loved ones left behind, for me most of all. Never another master as kind as he. I'll never find one, no matter where I go, not even if I went back to mother and father, the house where I was born and my parents reared me once. But much as I grieve for them, much as I long to lay my eyes on them, set foot on the old soil, it's longing for him that wrings my heart. Odysseus, lost and gone. That man, old friend, far away as he is, I can scarcely bear to say his name aloud. So deeply he loved me, cared for me so deeply. Worlds away as he is, I call him master, brother." What do we know about Odysseus as a king? Do you think Odysseus seemed like he was a good king when he was in Ithaca? Not everybody's servants feel this way about them. This was a good, wise, kind king. So, kind of rooting. If we weren't already, we're rooting for him. He's a good man. He's tricky. He's a liar. But he's a good man. Not only is, as we said, he's an excellent host, but he gives, for example, he gives to Odysseus the boar's long loin and the cut of honor cheered his master's heart. He gives Odysseus the best cut off the boar that he's butchered. He gives him the prime Gives him the T-bone, whatever. And they go to sleep, and you might remember that Odysseus tested him one more time. He said, "Oh, I was at Troy with Odysseus, and I remember one time we went up to the walls of Troy. And it was cold, and I left my cloak, and I was shivering. I thought I was going to freeze to death. And Odysseus saw me, and I was embarrassed. I didn't want to say, 'Oh, can I go back and get my cloak?' And Odysseus noticed, and he said, he called one of the other guys. He said, 'Oh, hey, I need you to go back to the ships and do this and that. And while you're at it, bring me that cloak.' And then he gave me his cloak. And Eumaeus gets the message. He said, I got you. You're going to find the same hospitality here. Here, friend. Have another blanket." So they went to sleep. And it says, Odysseus slept, and the young hand slept beside him. Not the swineherd. Not his style to bed indoors, apart from his pigs. He geared up to go outside, and it warmed Odysseus' heart. Eumaeus cared so much for his absent master's goods. The servant, even though the master's been gone 20 years, and he said over and over, "I think he's dead, he's never coming back." But he still takes really, really good care of his master's stuff. Does this remind you guys of anything that Jesus said? Does this remind you of a parable or a story or?
Parable of the coins, where he gives one to one person and then five to another man, and then or maybe it was like two or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one with the most doubled it, and then
Mm-hmm.
the other one doubled it, but the one with the least just buried it and then gave it back as it was.
And he said, "You were faithful in something small, I'll put you in charge of something big." In other stories, Jesus talked about the fact that that the good servant cares for what is the master's, because you don't know when the master will come home. It will be a surprise, maybe. And it's a really good thing when the master comes back and he finds the servants doing what they're supposed to do. All right. Odysseus is home, but Telemachus is not. Telemachus is off on his little jaunt, visiting Nestor and Menelaus and Helen and whatnot. So Athena goes and gives him a little message in a vision or a dream and says, you need to hightail it home because you've left your home unguarded. There's the suitors everywhere. You don't know what they might get up to while you're gone. You better get home. So he heads home. But as he's getting ready to leave, a guy runs up to him. This guy's name is Theoclymenus. And it says he's a fugitive out of Argos. He'd killed a man. He was a prophet, sprung of Melampus's line of seers. And he runs up and he says to Telemachus, "Who are you? Tell me who you are. Where are you going? Let me travel with you." "Of course, stranger," the forthright prince responded. "I will tell you everything clearly as I can. Ithaca is my country. Odysseus is my father." And he tells him where he's going, what he's done. And the godlike seer Theoclymenus replied, "Just like you, I too have left my land. I, because I killed a man of my own tribe. But there are people who want to avenge him." So he's standing there with Theoclymenus. And eventually Theoclymenus makes a couple of prophecies. There's actually two answers to this. What prophecy? There's more than one. What is something that Theoclymenus, this seer that's hooked up with Telemachus, predicts? Yeah, that's the first thing. He says, they saw an eagle. Remember, eagles, birds of prey on the right. This is always a good sign, especially when they swoop after the smaller birds. Do you ever see this happen? But sometimes the smaller birds can gang up on the bigger bird. Have you ever seen this? Sometimes there'll be a big bird. Next time you see a large bird soaring around, look, and you might see smaller birds whirling around it, and it will swoop at them, and it will swoop back at them. They sometimes attack the big bird because they don't want it near their nests. But this bird was swooping at the smaller birds, and he said that's you, Telemachus. You're going to wipe out all opposition, and your line's going to last forever. He makes one more prediction. It's not really a prediction, it's more of an observation. Did anybody notice that? This is after they get back to Ithaca. Theoclymenus added firmly, I swear Odysseus is on native soil, here and now. Poised or on the prowl, learning of these rank crimes, he's sowing seeds of ruin for all your suitors. He's talking to Penelope. He's here. So clear, so true, that bird sign I saw as I sat on the bench ship and sounded out the future to the prince. Not only is Telemachus' line going to last, but Odysseus is home. Do they believe him? No, every time. No, that's never going to happen. Telemachus, interestingly, heads straight to Eumaeus's, to the swineherd, where his dad is sitting there. And he comes in, and Eumaeus is overjoyed because he knew Telemachus was traveling, and he was concerned, and he's heard rumors of a plot, a murder plot, which was true. Straight to the prince he rushed, Eumaeus, and kissed his face and kissed his shining eyes, both hands, as the tears rolled down his cheeks. As a father, brimming with love, welcomes home his darling only son in a warm embrace, what pain he's borne for him and him alone. Home now, in the 10th year from far abroad. So the loyal swineherd hugged the beaming prince. Let's run that by you again. Eumaeus hugged Telemachus like a father hugs a son. The son's been gone 10 years, and the father has pined away. What's kind of wonky about that whole simile? There's more than one thing. Eumaeus hugs Telemachus like a father hugs the son who's been gone for 10 years, and he's been missing him.
Well, Odysseus has been gone for 10 years, and he's the father.
The father has been gone for 10 years. Is Eumaeus the father?
And, yeah, he's not the father.
Is the father there in the room?
Yes.
Yes. It's hilarious. The father hugs his son who's been gone. Odysseus is sitting there. Whereas Telemachus doesn't know who he is, but he knows who Telemachus is. So Odysseus, moving back, sat down once more, and now for the prince the swineherd strewed a bundle of fresh green brushwood, topped it off with sheepskin, and there the true son of Odysseus took his place. Is that how he felt before his little trip? I'm the true son of Odysseus.
No.
He said, well, they say Odysseus is my dad, but I don't feel like the son of a great hero. I'm not sure I'm up to the challenge. He's mixed with the high and mighty on this trip. He's mixed with heroes in high style. And they've all said, you're just like him. You're just like him. And now he comes back. He's the true son of Odysseus. All right. Athena calls Odysseus out and magics him. And he goes back in, and he doesn't look like a beggar anymore. Telemachus is freaked out. You're a god. I know you're a god. No, I'm not a god. The long-enduring great Odysseus returned. Why confuse me with one who never dies? No, I am your father, the Odysseus you wept for all your days. You bore a world of pain, the cruel abuse of men. What does Odysseus mean? Do you remember the name? What's it mean that he has? Do you remember? I just mentioned it once. I didn't ask you a question about it. I didn't tell you to write it down. He's the son of pain. And he keeps talking. Oh, the pain I've endured. Oh, man of misery. Listen to this again. I am your father, the Odysseus you wept for all your days. You bore a world of pain, the cruel abuse of men. Who bore pain? Telemachus. If Odysseus is the son of pain, Telemachus is the grandson of pain. I don't know. Telemachus bore pain too, and Odysseus knows it. All right, we got to get a plan, and part of the plan is to find out who's good and who's bad. Now, tell me more about this goat herd. What's our assessment of the goat herd?
Yep.
In what way?
Just a grouch.
Well, is he just a grouch, or is he worse than that? He's yeah. Well, okay. Let me read what he says, and let's see if we can even have a harsher. Maybe we're still being too kind to him. Here is so Eumaeus and Odysseus. Odysseus looking like a beggar, again, are headed to town, to Odysseus' own house. Here Dolius' son Melanthius crossed their path, herding his goats with a pair of drovers' help, the pick of his flocks to make the suitors' meal. As soon as he saw them there, he broke into a flood of brutal, foul abuse that made Odysseus' blood boil. Look, he sneered, one scum nosing another scum along. Dirt finds dirt by the will of God. It never fails. Stinking pig boy. Where do you take your filthy swine? This sickening beggar who licks the pots at feasts. Hanging round the doorsteps, rubbing his back, scavenging after scraps. No hero's swords and cauldrons, not for him. Hand him over to me. I'll teach him to work a farm, muck out my stalls, pitch feed to the young goats. Whey to drink will put some muscle on his hams. Oh, no. He's learned his lazy ways too well. He's got no itch to stick to good hard work. He'd rather go scrounging round the countryside, begging for crust to stuff his greedy gut. Is this how we treat strangers? No. Let me tell you, so help me it's the truth, if he sets foot in King Odysseus' royal palace, salvos of footstools flung at his head by all the lords will crack his ribs as he runs the line of fire through the house. Does Melanthius seem to see a problem with flinging footstools at strangers? No, it's amusing. It's highly amusing. Wild, reckless taunts. And just as he passed Odysseus, the idiot lurched out with a heel and kicked his hip. But he couldn't knock the beggar off the path. He stood his ground so staunchly. Odysseus was torn. Should he wheel with his staff and beat the scoundrel senseless? Or hoist him by the midriff, split his skull on the rocks? He steeled himself instead, his mind in full control. Just stop for a minute and picture it. You're the king. This all is yours. And you've been a good king. You weren't abusive and mean. The good servants love you and they're loyal to you. And you come home and your servants abuse you, call you foul names, insult you, and then kick you. What do you want to do really, really bad? Yeah. If you don't want to hoist them by the midriff and split their skull on rocks, you do want to at least say, dude, you just messed up so bad. You have no idea. You want to at least put the fear into him. But if he does, what happens? If he does that right now, if he makes that decision, I cannot take this. This level of abuse is unacceptable. And he lashes out and he says who he is, what happens next?
Everyone knows who he is.
Everyone knows, and then what happens after that?
Try and take him out.
Yeah,
Probably do take him out.
they probably do take him out. He steeled himself, his mind in full control. I had some students once, and they hated Odysseus. And they didn't mind the Odyssey. They just hated Odysseus as a man because he slept with other women. You know, it's like, oh, I want Penelope, but I'm going to shack up with Calypso for 7 years against his will, and Circe for a year and whatnot. And I just was trying to explain to them, well, but he did show self-control. So with Circe, you know, she's like, oh, Odysseus, oh, you're not a pig. How did this happen? Oh, I know who you are. You're awesome. Hey. And he says, touch me. First of all, you turn my men back into human beings. You give them some food. You swear you will never pull that kind of crud on me or my men again. And he holds himself back. And it's not the same moral sensibility that we have. Odysseus is marked by self-control. By self-control. And if he's not, it's all going to blow up in his face. So I mean, it seems like a little incident. Oh, should he split his skull on the rocks? But this seemed best. He's enduring horrible, horrible abuse from people who should be bowing down to him, frankly. Okay. So he says nothing. Eumaeus does say something. He prays, O nymphs of the fountain, daughters of Zeus, if Odysseus ever burned you the long thighs of lambs or kids covered with rich fat, now bring my prayer to pass. Let that man come back. Some god guide him now. He'd toss to the winds that flashy show you make, Melanthius, so cocksure, always strutting round the town, while worthless field hands leave your flocks a shambles. You don't watch over the flocks. You don't watch over your master's goods. You just bring in the best you've got and come and party with the suitors all day. Listen to him, the goat herd shouted back, all bark and no bite from the vicious mutt. He says, just let Apollo shoot Telemachus down with his silver bow today in the halls, or the suitors snuff his life out. Oh, I hope the suitors can take out Telemachus, he says in front of Telemachus' dad. As sure as I know, the day of the king's return is blotted out. The king's world's away. Odysseus gets his first look at his own house in 20 years. And not only his house, his Argos. Before I talk about Argos, though, let me read one more thing. He says, Eumaeus warns Odysseus to be careful with the suitors. Don't linger here long. Watch yourself. The man who'd borne long years abroad, Odysseus replied, well, I know. Remember, there's sense in this old head. You go in, you first, while I stay here behind. Stones and blows and I are hardly strangers. My heart is steeled now. I've had my share of pain in the waves and wars. Add this to the total. Bring the trial on. Okay. Who is Argos? That he trained as a puppy once. He's a really old dog. 20, a dog can live, dogs can live 20 years. We had 14 or 15, easy. Oh yeah. Our black lab was 14 and a half when he died. Okay, we'll just accept it. Accept it, Liam. Dogs are better. Little joy he got, since all too soon he shipped to sacred Troy, so he never got to hunt with his puppy. In the old days, young hunters loved to set him coursing after the wild goats and deer and hares. But now, with his master gone, he lay there, cast away, on piles of dung from mules and cattle, heaps collecting out before the gates till Odysseus's serving men could cart it off to manure the king's estates, infested with ticks, half dead from neglect. Here lay the hound, old Argos. But the minute he sensed Odysseus standing by, he thumped his tail, nuzzling low, and his ears dropped, though he had no strength to drag himself an inch toward his master. Odysseus glanced to the side and flicked away a tear, hiding it from Eumaeus, diverting his friend in a hasty, offhand way. And he says, "Well, what's the deal with this dog? This seems like it was a fine dog. Was this just like a lap dog? Was this a good hunting dog?" "You told the stranger, Eumaeus, loyal swineherd. Here, it's all too true. Here's the dog of a man who died in foreign parts. But if he had now the form and flair he had in his glory days, as Odysseus left him sailing off to Troy, you'd be amazed to see such speed, such strength. No quarry he chased in the deepest, darkest woods could ever slip this hound. A champion tracker, too. But he's run out of luck now, poor fellow. His master's dead and gone, so far from home, and the heartless women tend him not at all. Slaves, with their lords no longer there to crack the whip, lose all zest to perform their duties well. Zeus, the old thunderer, robs a man of half his virtue the day the yoke clamps down around his neck." With that he entered the well-constructed palace, strode through the halls, and joined the proud suitors. But the dark shadow of death closed down on Argos's eyes the instant he saw Odysseus 20 years away. Do we have any moments like that in the Iliad? I mean, first of all, is that important to the plot in any way, shape, or form that you can see? Why put it in if you were writing this story?
It makes it feel more like he's coming home, and that he has some things that he misses.
He's had things he misses. Is it what we would call a personal touch? A very personal touch. He had a family. He had a life. He had a puppy. Argos missed him and lay there and pined. And I don't know about dogs. This does happen with people sometimes, that they're getting ready to die, but they seem to hold on till a particular person comes. You often hear this. Like as soon as the so-and-so shows up, the child, whoever, the spouse, they just pass away. And it just happens so often, I mean, not like every time, but it happens with some frequency, that it can't be coincidence. It's like they were holding on and waiting to see them one more time or say goodbye, and then they can go. I do not know if dogs are capable of this. But is everybody in Ithaca like Argos, longing for his return? The dog knows his master. Melanthius doesn't. Eumaeus doesn't recognize him. Isn't it? It's kind of fun to me that none of the humans recognize him, but the dog knows who he is. Do you ever hear about animals sensing things that maybe people don't sense? Before an earthquake, sometimes animals get restless, farm animals get restless. They know it's coming. It's kind of weird that they have a sense that we don't have. Anyway, no, it's a very heart-wrenching personal touch. We'll talk about not next week, 2 weeks from now, but our next meeting. We'll finish the Odyssey, and then we'll look at the whole book as a whole book. But keep that in mind as you finish it up, and just kind of be thinking of the differences, what the Iliad was like, what the storytelling was like, and then the details that are in the Odyssey. For example, think about the part of women in the Iliad, and the part of women and home in the Odyssey. Um, one thing I wanted to note, and let me see, I think, yeah, let's just go back a little bit. Well, I'm rewinding a bit. Telemachus comes home, and I just wanted to note he comes back from Eumaeus's. He comes to the palace, and it says, and of course he knows his dad is home. At that, Telemachus strode down through the farm in quick, firm strides, brooding death for the suitors. And once he reached his well-constructed palace, propping his spear against a sturdy pillar and crossing the stone threshold, in he went. And Eurycleia, the nurse, the old nurse, "Oh, welcome home, Telemachus, you're home. I was so worried about you." And Penelope, she calls Penelope, and Penelope comes down, and mom is kissing him and fawning over him. "Please, mother," steady Telemachus replied, "don't move me to tears. Don't stir the heart within me. I've just escaped death, sudden death. No. Bathe now, put on some fresh clothes, go up to your room with your serving women, pray, and promise the gods a generous sacrifice to bring success, if Zeus will ever grant us the hour of our revenge." And then he informs her that I picked up a guest when I was abroad, that prophet. I need to go take care of him. Words to the mark that left his mother silent. She bathed now, put on some fresh clothes, prayed, and promised the gods a generous sacrifice to bring success. In other words, Telemachus said, "Mom, no, don't tell me what to do right now. You go take a bath, go up with your serving women, go to the women's quarters. I got things taken care of." Is that the Telemachus we saw when he left? It really wasn't. It's like, "Oh, I better not tell Mom I'm going away because she'll get all upset," and he sneaks off. He comes home and he just says, "This is what it's going to be." And Athena lavished a marvelous splendor on the prince. So the people all gazed in wonder as he came forward. Who else does Athena do that to? Odysseus. Athena is treating him just like she treats his dad. Okay. Eumaeus goes up to Odysseus and says that he's supposed to make the rounds of the suitors, beg from one and all. And Athena adds, "Go, gather crusts from all the suitors, test them, so we can tell the innocent from the guilty. They've got a chance." This is the final exam. The master's home, and this is the final exam. And will they pass it? Well, he goes to Antinous, who's the ringleader, and he says, if all the suitors gave him the sort of gift I'll give, the house would be rid of him for 3 whole months. But Odysseus doesn't give up. "Give me a morsel, friend. You're hardly the worst Achaean here, it seems. The noblest one, in fact. You look like a king to me. You should give a bigger crust than the rest, and I will sing your praises all across the earth. I, too, once lived in a lofty house that men admired. Rolling in wealth, I'd often give to a vagabond like myself." Does anybody remember what Antinous does in response?
Throws his footstool.
He is the one who throws the footstool. Throws a stool and hits Odysseus in the back. He failed. Just needless to say, he failed the final exam. Antinous is not going to be making it to the end of the poem. We read through 18, right? We read through 18. Okay, was anybody sort of amused by a fist fight between the two beggars? A little bit. It's a little bit comic relief. However, what is the attitude of the other beggar to Odysseus? Does anybody remember? Does the other beggar say, "Oh, welcome, stranger. There's plenty here for both of us. Why don't we just take up, you can sit by me and we'll chat and we'll get some handouts." And Elliot, you're shaking your head no.
No. It's like, get out of here. This is my
Yeah, this is my place where I beg. In fact, he's not even that nice. Get off the porch, you old goat, before I haul you off by the leg. Can't you see them give me the wink? All of them here to drag you out? So I would, but I've got some pangs of conscience. Up with you, man, or before you know it, we'll be trading blows. I'm going to beat you up if you don't skedaddle. But Odysseus answers, "What damage have I done you? What have I said? I don't grudge you anything, not if the next man up and gives you plenty. The door sill is big enough for the both of us. You've got no call to grudge what's not yours. You're another vagrant, just like me, I'd say. And it lies with the gods to make us rich or poor." "Look who's talking," the beggar rumbled in anger. "How this pot-bellied pig runs off at the mouth like an old crow in her oven. Well, I've got a knockout blow in store for him. I'll batter the tramp with both fists, bash every tooth from his jaws. I'll litter the ground with teeth like a rogue sow's punished for rooting corn." What? Does the beggar understand hospitality? Even the beggar doesn't understand hospitality. By the way, who wins the fist fight?
Odysseus.
Oh, that'd be Odysseus. Yeah, it's hilarious. He starts rolling up his sleeves, and they're all, he looks kind of stronger than we thought he was. They get a little concerned. Yeah. Odysseus wins. Odysseus gives them one last warning. He picks out a guy named Amphinomus, and he says, "I knew your dad. Listen closely," he says. "Of all that breathes and crawls across the earth, our Mother Earth breeds nothing feebler than a man. So long as the gods grant him power, spring in his knees, he thinks he'll never suffer affliction down the years. But then when the happy gods bring on hard times, bear them he must against his will and steel his heart. So look at me now. And so I say, let no man ever be lawless all his life, and just take in peace what gifts the gods send. True, but here I see you suitors plotting your reckless work, carving away at the wealth, affronting the loyal wife of a man who won't be gone from kin and country long. I say he's right at hand, and may some power save you, spirit you home before you meet him face to face, the moment he returns to his native ground." Amphinomus made his way back through the hall, heart sick with anguish, shaking his head, fraught with grave forebodings, but even so he could not escape his fate. Even then Athena had bound him fast to death at the hands of Prince Telemachus and his spear. Even the ones who might have wanted to pass the final test, they're too deep in. They're all going down. They're all going down. we need to talk about our writing. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, I mentioned the serving women. Let's throw this Melantho. Um, Odysseus is going to spend the night in the palace, and he said, "Oh, you serving women, I'll stay up and trim the lights, trim the wicks of the lights." And, the women burst into laughter. Flushed with beauty, Melantho mocked him shamelessly. Dolius was her father. Melanthius, son of Dolius, and her name's Melantho. She's the goat herd's sister. But Penelope brought her up. She treated her like her own child and gave her toys to cheer her heart. But despite that, her heart felt nothing for all her mistress's anguish now. She was Eurymachus's lover, always slept with him. She was the one who mocked her king and taunted, "Cock of the walk, did someone beat your brains out? Why not go bed down at the blacksmith's forge or a public place where tramps collect? Why here? No fear in your heart? Wine's got your wits? Or do you always play the fool and babble nonsense?" She's also failed the test. All right, I want you to finish the Odyssey, and I want to talk about what I'd like you to write. I am going to entrust you guys with a whole paper because we've got 2 weeks. No worries, Sinley. You will pass the test. You will not. There will be no shooting here, so I don't know what I'm threatening him with if he doesn't pass, but we are going to do another 5-paragraph paper. So this is just like the one we did just now. 5 paragraphs, intro and conclusion, and 3 body paragraphs. Here is your topic, though. It's not exactly, it's not a should question, should so-and-so have done something. But what I want you to do is compare Odysseus with Jesus. Can you see Liam? Okay. You can come sit somewhere else if it show up on the, yes, it does. So how are we going to do this? First of all, you're going to have 5 paragraphs, as we usually do. Introduction and conclusion. Okay, what are some things that go in the introduction?
Something to lure readers in.
What? To lure us in, start with a question or a command, something of that nature. What were you going to say, Miriam? Information about the people you're talking about. So we can assume, you can assume I know who Jesus is. You don't have to explain to me who Jesus is. And you can give me a very bare bones who Odysseus is. Perhaps the name of the poem, the name and the author of the poem in which we learn about him. Of poem. And that he was away for 20 years and came back. This is enough. This is enough. And then we also need to state our topic. And our topic is, there are ways in which Odysseus is like Jesus. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot. In conclusion, you're going to restate your 3 observations, points we'll say. And which is most important or most notable and why. Remember, you have an outline in the back of your reading guide that has this on it, if you cannot remember. That you've done, everyone but Kinsley has done a bunch of these introductions and conclusions for me. I think we've got that. Does that make sense to you, Kinsley? Okay. And by the way, Kinsley, I haven't said this to you, but everyone else knew this. It's always helpful to write the main part of your paper first and then go back and write the introduction because then you know what you said. So how are we going to do this? Well, first we need to think of a way, some way that Odysseus and Jesus are the same or have a similarity. Can any of you think of something that's true both of Odysseus and of Jesus?
Both very wise.
Can you give me an example of Odysseus being wise? The reason I ask is because that seems a little vague.
He didn't come back announcing, "Oh, I'm back," but he kind of stayed undercover.
Okay. When Jesus came, did everyone realize who he was? Did he come in disguise for the same reason that Odysseus came in disguise?
It's Odysseus came back to save his.
Oh, okay, yes. But he came back to save everybody. The king, the master, came to save. But Odysseus came in disguise so he wouldn't get killed. Jesus came, can we say in disguise? They didn't expect God to be a human being. So in that sense, he did come in disguise. But was it so they wouldn't kill him? No, it was kind of so they would kill him, in a sense. So maybe we can't say that, Henley, that they were both wise because they both came in disguise, because they did it for different reasons. But we could say that they were both kings who came to save their people. That is a similarity. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you see where my mind went with that? The king came back. The king came. In that we could do another paper, how will Odysseus be like the second coming, but we'll stick with the first coming. So the king wants to save his people. Is there any difference in the way they saved their people? And this kind of blows up. Obviously, you haven't finished the Odyssey, but I'm assuming most of you know or remember how the Odyssey is going to end, or you suspect. We've had enough foreshadowing. Or not. Maybe you should just finish the Odyssey and then decide if they have a difference. So here's what I did. I looked for a similarity and described it. And then I looked for how are they different? Are they exactly the same? So both these kings come to save their people. One of them saved them by dying. Is the other one going to save them by dying? There's going to be dying involved. Let's see if we can think of another one.
They both humble themselves.
They both have to humble themselves and endure a lot of abuse. Right? So this is another similarity. So if I were turning this into a paragraph, I might say, both Odysseus and Jesus came in a very humble form. And then I would give some examples. Odysseus let people fling stools at him and call him stinking scum and watched them, ruin his house and eat his stuff, and he didn't say anything. Jesus, how did Jesus humble himself? Okay, first of all, by not giving up, but surrendering total power for a time, by becoming limited.
Well, and he was born as in a manger.
Yeah, and not even being born as a human being in a palace or something. Being born in poverty, and then, I mean, being beaten and abused and lied about. And I mean, it shouldn't be very hard to find examples in the Bible of Jesus being abused in some way. So how are they different? Well, how are they different?
I mean, Jesus is God.
Jesus is God. So as bad as it is for what Odysseus had to endure, as bad as it is for the king to have stools thrown at him, how bad is it for God to be beaten and insulted and smacked around? That's really, really bad. So in that case, it's just a heightened level. I'm going to just throw those two out. You can use those two if you want, but you might come up with your own. But here's how this works. You're just going to have to sit down. First of all, you're going to have to finish the Odyssey, so that so you know how the whole thing ends. Second of all, I would just get a piece of paper, because sometimes it's hard to keep everything in your head, and I would just jot down everything I see that's the same about them. They're both kings. They both come to their own people. They're both humbled. Punishment falls on certain ones.
They give people second chances.
They give people second chances. They only test to find the truly guilty, that sort of thing. Everything, even if you think it's kind of lame, I'd write it down, because some of them might be usable for one of the bigger ones. I just write down everything you can think of. He flees sin in the form of the sirens, everything you can think of. And then I'd love to see if you can think of, I've given you two, basically, if you can think of at least one more way, something you see similar in the life of Jesus, in the life of Odysseus. I told you, the church fathers just found the Odyssey chock full of Christian symbolism, because they were very, very comfortable with the fact that if somebody said something was true, it's true, even if it was a bunch of pagans. They might not have understood why it was true, but that there were things that everyone can know about reality and the way God works, even without revelation. Okay, if you just can't think of three, send me an email and say, I am having terrible trouble. Would you help me think of a third one, because you gave me two already? All right. And I would like you to write this. I would like you to put parallelism 1, which, remember, is 3 words of the same sort. 3 adjectives, 3 adverbs. Let's throw in P2, which is 3 phrases or clauses. So Kinsley, this is like 3 prepositional phrases. Odysseus walked through the door, down the path, and towards the palace. And then you have 3 prepositional phrases. Or 3 clauses. Argos whimpered pitifully, I'm going to cry, looked up at Odysseus longingly, and passed away peacefully on his manure pile. And that would have it'd be 3 clauses. So there's one of these and one of these, right? Somewhere in your paper where you have 3 words. Odysseus was strong, brave, and persevering, or cunning, right? That'd be 3 adjectives. And then somewhere where there's 3 phrases or clauses. If you have any trouble, any of you, but this is newer for you, please email me or call me. I am going to be gone this weekend, but I'll be here all next week. We're just going to take a break because it's been kind of a lot of heavy reading and writing. So basically, what I'm giving you is what I would give you for 1 week, maybe. I mean, just finish the Odyssey. It's the same amount we've been reading, and write the paper, which we would have taken 2 weeks on, and we are taking 2 weeks on it. So there's no real extra work I'm piling on.